late last night, as I was finishing my last blog, I just said, let me flip on the TV, and MSNBC and the Amen show, I guess it was a later rerun, popped up, and Michele Norris was standing in for him. And she did a piece on an article that she wrote that I didn't know about, but that was very informative. It turned out that she brought back a statement from the Apple CEO, Tim Cook, who pointed out that even if he wanted to manufacture his products and develop all his products here in the United States, that the skill set, the education was not here. It simply is not here, and it is based on the continual failure of the policies of many of our states in educating its people. Now we have Donald Trump, who further wants to put us behind with the education policies that he's coming up with the intrusion in universities and et cetera that he's doing. And Michele Norris, in one package, encapsulates all that is wrong with what we're doing. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Nearly a decade ago, Apple CEO Tim Cook explained why China was so vital to the manufacturing supply chain for his company's products.
The truth is, China stopped being the low labor cost country many years ago. The reason is because of the skill and the quantity of skill in one location and the type of skill it is. The tooling skill is very deep here. You know, in the US, you could have a meeting of tooling engineers and I'm not sure we could fill the room. In China, you could fill multiple football fields.
That was Tim Cook speaking in China at a global financial conference several years ago, and yet his words are especially relevant today in the midst of President Trump's escalating trade war on China. That disparity he described between engineers in the U.S. versus China could only become wider due to the Trump administration's policy choices. This president is actively threatening colleges and universities while gutting crucial research efforts. He has even proposed scrapping programs like Head Start for low-income students and families while trying to eviscerate the Department of Education. Now, contrast that with China. Early this year, it announced a plan to vastly improve its education system over the next decade with the goal of making it among the best in the world. That's on top of a decades-long effort to improve compulsory education and industrial innovation across that vast nation to create a workforce for the future. China's leaders are prioritizing science and technology education programs across the country with plans to integrate artificial intelligence into classrooms and curriculums. Starting this fall, AI education will be mandatory even for elementary students in China's capital city of Beijing. Here in the U.S., our Education Secretary Linda McMahon recently confused AI with A1. That's the name of a popular steak sauce brand. The difference could not be more stark. In truth, America's disinvestment in education is not a new problem. It predates Donald Trump. According to the Center for Security and Emerging Technology, China has nearly double the amount of students graduating with science and technology PhDs than we do here in the United States. In 2019, an international study found that Chinese students ranked higher than American eighth graders in almost every educational category. American middle school students came in 16th in math and 14th in science, trailing behind kids from a host of other countries, including Singapore, Japan, Russia, and several others. Now the U.S. and China are locked in a heated trade war, largely because Trump argues increased tariffs are the key to reviving U.S. manufacturing. What's missing, though, is a long-term strategy based on building up training programs and precise skills in a rapidly changing technological world. In order to actually compete with China, we need more investment in education at all levels. By gutting the education department and picking fights with the universities, Trump is making one thing clear. He's hell-bent on destroying the infrastructure that could ensure economic growth. When you poll voters about what matters to them, education often comes up high on the list, but our current spending and strategic priorities in this nation do not reflect that. When education comes up in the news cycle, it's often in the context of school shootings, GOP book bans, attacks on trans student athletes, or debates about so-called critical race theory. But Trump's attack on education goes much deeper than these culture wars. He's putting today's students and tomorrow's workforce on track to slip farther and farther behind. Instead of building America's first-class education system, Donald Trump is picking fights with universities, threatening to shutter the Department of Education and withholding funding from schools that do not follow his cultural agenda. We have an administration that acts like our educational infrastructure is more of a whipping post than a piston for growth. A country that wants to compete or even keep pace with China should not treat its advanced education system with this kind of disdain or scorn.
The death of a country doesn't necessarily have to come quickly. It doesn't have to come by war. It doesn't have to come by any of these. It can happen simply by attrition. And that is what we've been doing. We have been allowing the plutocrats, we've been allowing the oligarchs to sell out our country. We've been allowing them to buy up our public lands. We have been allowing them to pilfer our resources where instead of it going to the commons, instead of it going to educate us, instead of it going to support our infrastructures, ended up in the pockets of so many, which is why we have a small number of multi-mega billionaires and high-price millionaires. We have instituted over the last several years, because of our lack of paying attention as citizens to really be running our government, we have allowed them to pilfer us. And this is what slow death looks like. We are at a point now where we cannot compete with China. We were the great innovators. We were where things were made. We were not only a manufacturing behemoth, but we were also the intellectual behemoth. Now we have China excelling in AI with underperforming CPUs, because whereas we blocked them from using our high-speed CPUs, they found a way around it to be more efficient. So, those of you that continue to support these barbaric troglodytes, you may get a good feeling by the fight against the elite. Yes, the elites have some problems that they should be working out of. They should be in Timbuktu, everywhere in this country, really engaging everyone. But in the process of hating these folks, what we're doing to our country right now is, for all practical purposes, getting to the point that it could be irreversible. Whenever I speak about China or show people a few videos about China, they say you're being a China propagandist. In other words, you are being used by China to display these things. I worked with Chinese companies. I flew into Xi'an at the birth of this explosion in Chinese technology. I understand how these guys decided to build. While we bombed, while we created wars, while we bullied people, they provided soft support. They did what I call soft bullying. In other words, you don't even know that you're being bullied. They played a smart game, and they continue to play a smart game around the world. This isn't Chinese propaganda. This is saying we better start doing better before it's too late. We better start making friends. We better start bringing back Latin America, Central America, and the Caribbean into our sphere. Because while we may be in the military sphere of these countries, where these countries are be careful in who they do business with overtly, China has their heart. I hate to tell you that, but China has their heart. China is out there building as we're out there bombing, bullying, tariffing, and telling folks how much they need us and that we will plaster them. Folks, that's not how the world works. And the more we support these troglodytes, the more we fall behind. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.